Welcome guys, or welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to show you how to crochet the Point the Way Beanie. This is my pattern for this absolutely adorable little beanie. This is the newborn size, and that's what I'll be crocheting with you guys today. But you can find the full written pattern in my Etsy shop, and it has 8 sizes all the way from newborn all the way to adult large, and it's a super quick and simple pattern. It's really just a 1-row repeat, and I will even show you how to finish it up and make it look so nice. So for this pattern, I used the Yarn Bee Soft Secret in Dusty Teal. This yarn is a little bit, it's classified as a worsted weight yarn, but I feel like it's it'd be like a thick DK weight yarn. You kind of see how it's not super thick, and it's very, very soft. So I had some testers use like Karen Simple Soft, and I had some of them also use DK weight yarn if it was a little thicker. So just make sure that you are checking out the gauge. The gauge for this, I will go ahead and explain here in just a minute. But just make sure you're meeting gauge, because that will be a huge factor in the sizing for this beanie. So I used a 5.5 millimeter hook, or I9, and the only other things that you're going to need are a good pair of scissors and a yarn needle, and that's it. It's going to be a super, super simple pattern. For the gauge, you will need to know how to herringbone double crochet. That's the base stitch for this beanie, and you will need to know how to crochet in the back loop only. So for the gauge, you will need to do herringbone double crochet, 15 stitches by 10 rows. Herringbone double crochet in the back loop only should get you a 4 by 4 inch square. I recommend adding a couple stitches on the side and doing about 12 rows, just so your gauge swatches, you can actually measure on the inside. If you have questions about that, go ahead and comment below and I will help you out with that. But go ahead and check your gauge and then grab your supplies and we'll get started. Alrighty guys, so for the newborn size, you're going to chain a total of 28 stitches. Now I recommend that you don't chain these crazy tight if you have a tighter tension, just because the herringbone double crochet, it tends to just make it a little looser. So if you have the chain too tight, it can actually mess it up a little bit. Not like crazy, but it'll make it your seam a little more apparent. So try to crochet a little more loosely for your chain. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So in the third chain from your hook, that's where we're going to work our first herringbone double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how this works. So we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into this chain, yarn over again, pull through, and you're going to pull through that first loop. And I feel like the first one's always like the toughest to get down. And then you yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over and pull through 2. So that's your first herringbone double crochet. And you're going to repeat this all the way across. So yarn over, insert into the next chain, yarn over, pull through that first loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're just going to repeat it all the way across. And this is just the standard herringbone double crochet stitch. we will go ahead and do the same stitch for every row, but we will be placing it in the back loop only from the second row on. So I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. But go ahead and finish your row and I'll see you here in a minute. Alrighty guys, so once your first row is complete, you should have 26 herringbone double crochets. So that will be for the newborn size, of course. So what you're going to do now, to start your next row, you're going to chain 2. Now these chain 2s do not count as a stitch. So we're going to go ahead and turn, and in the back loop only is where we are going to do our next herringbone double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the back loop only, yarn over again, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's what you're going to do all the way across. So we'll do it again, yarn over, insert into the back loop only, yarn over, pull through 1, or pull through the stitch, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. So you're going to just repeat this stitch all the way across, and you'll see it creates this really fun, very subtle herringbone texture, but it also, with the back loop only, creates kind of a fun texture creates a fun ribbing. So you'll kind of see it getting started there. So that's what you'll do all the way back across. So I'll go ahead and I'll meet you back here in just a minute. At the end of your second row, before you get there, I just wanted to show you how you can tell, make sure that you're not crocheting into that chain 2, because you don't want to be adding stitches. So you're going to go ahead and just continue to herringbone double crochet in the back loop only. But you'll see here, you can kind of tell this is the last stitch from the previous row. So anything over here, you're just going to kind of ignore that. You're just going to skip it. What it'll do is it'll kind of create a fun, almost scalloped edge. I'll show you on the finished product. So like the edge will be kind of almost like very subtly scalloped, and when you fold it over, you can't necessarily always tell super well, but you can tell just a little bit. It'll create this little fun edging, and I think it's really pretty, but it'll also just make sure that you have a really even rectangle. So just make sure that you only crochet your 26 for the newborn. Remember, for that newborn size, you should only have 26 stitches for every single row. Just make sure you're not adding. And with the herringbone double crochet, I've always noticed that the first couple rows, you'll notice they'll be kind of like wonky, and then as you crochet more rows, it'll even itself back out. That's also why I was saying you don't want to have your chain too tight, because otherwise it can kind of really get going if you have it way too tight. So for the next 28 rows, so you'll have a total of 30 rows for the newborn size if you met gauge. So you'll have a total of 30 rows for the rectangle, and you're going to just repeat this same row 2 for every single row. So you're going to chain 2 again, and you're going to, remember, this doesn't count as a stitch, so you're going to herringbone double crochet in the back loop only, and you're just going to repeat this row. You're going to repeat this stitch for every row until you have a total of 30 rows. So I'm going to go ahead and crochet my 30 rows, and I will show you how we finish up this hat. Remember, you just want to herringbone double crochet in the back loop only, and it'll create that fun ribbing. And I'll see you back here in a little bit, in just a minute, to show you how we finish up this newborn hat. Alrighty guys, so once you have completed your 30 rows, or If your gauge is a little bit off, you want to make sure that it is 12 inches long. So 12 inches long or 30 rows. Then what you're going to do is you're going to chain one. And this is where we're going to start seaming up our newborn beanie. Okay, so we're going to actually line these up. Oops, I forgot to turn. So you're going to chain one and turn. Then you're going to line these guys up. And what we are going to do is we are going to slip stitch through both sides. So both of the short sides. So this is why we're not fastening off yet. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into one. I am just going to do the back loop only. If you want to make sure it's super secure, you could totally do both loops. That's more up to you. I'm going to do the back loop only and through the base chain from the other side. I'm going to loop over, and you want to make sure you're slip stitching kind of loosely. You don't want to like be pulling it super tight. So I'll show you again. Got a little tight there. And you don't want it tight because then it'll actually pull the seam. You'll be able to notice the seam so much more. So you want to slip stitch loosely so that way your seam is less noticeable. So back loop only into both sides, and you're going to slip stitch. And you're going to do this all the way across through every single stitch. So back loop only into the next stitch and slip stitch. So once you've done that, I will show you how we're going to create the top of our beanie. It's pretty simple, but go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and finish slip stitching across. You do the same, and I'll see you in a second. Alrighty guys, so now we've created a sort of cylinder with our shape. So, and we've finished slip stitching all the way across. So what we're going to do is we're going to fasten off. Now, I'm not going to be exact, but you want approximately 18 inches, 12 to 18 inches as your tail, just because this will give you lots of leeway and make sure that you can really knot it securely when you are finishing up. So I'm going to go ahead and just chain one and pull through to fasten off. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set our hook aside, and we're going to use our yarn needle to finish up the top of the beanie. So I want to make sure you guys understand. So this seam is actually going to be on the inside of the beanie. So what we're going to do is we're going to work around we're going to sew all the way around the top, and we're going to pull it tight. And once it's all completed, we're actually going to flip it inside out. So you won't be able to see this seam. You won't be able to see your sewing work or anything like that. Just wanted to make sure, because I know sometimes people forget about that and they're like, oh, I can see it. So don't want you to worry about that at all. So we're just going to go back and forth, and you're going to sew in and out of the rows. And it doesn't have to be perfect by any means, because you're going to come back through and you're going to make sure it's super secure by pulling it tight, and you can re-knot it several times. So if you're ever at a point where you're like, I don't know, don't worry about it too much. You can go ahead and knot it a couple more times and it'll be just fine. So you do want to make sure you're trying to get through this stitch, and you don't want to just go into like an, you don't want to go too far down, because that'll kind of make your beanie uneven. But you also, like, you'll notice there's sometimes there's kind of gaps, because this one's more of a lighter beanie, so it's a little more spaced out. So you don't want to like just go in the gaps quite as much. You want to make sure you're actually sewing through something. This will make it a little more secure, so you're not making any of the holes any bigger than they need to be. All right, so we're almost there. All right, so what you're going to want to do is once you get to the end, you're going to see how you're going to pull it tight just a little bit, and then you're going to continue to just pull it all the way tight. And what I do is I start off by pulling it tight, and I actually use the tail from the very beginning, and I will knot this really securely first, because this will kind of keep this tight. And then what you can do is you'll continue to kind of sew in and out, and then you'll knot again as you go. So you'll see how it didn't perfectly close it. So that's where we get to go across. We get to like sew in and out a little bit, and this will pull the circle tight. But that's why I said you don't want to like sew too far down in the row, because it'll kind of make it uneven as you go if you do that. So you can kind of go across a little bit, and this will just make sure that it's really secure and it's pulled tight all the way around, and make sure it won't get loose at any point, even if you wash it or whatever. So I do it anywhere between, it's up to you really and what yarn you use. The Yarn Bee, it's the Yarn Bee Soft Secret. It's a little more slippery in some ways, so I like to do it a little like 5 to 6 times, and then I knot it pretty securely with like 2 or 3 knots just to make sure. So I'll pull it tight on itself like that a couple times, and this is actually held up really, really well, because my husband and I use these beanies all the time. So just make sure that you feel like it's really secure before you finish up. And then what you're going to do is, once you have it nice and tight, all you have to do then is you're going to weave in your ends. So I'll go ahead and weave in my ends really quick, and I'll show you how to finish up here in just a second. Alrighty guys, so the final step is you're going to flip your beanie inside out, and then you're going to go ahead and just flip up the brim. And I love that this is adjustable, because then you can kind of make it, if you have a little baby that's got a smaller head, you can go ahead and make that brim thicker, and if they have a bigger head, you can just kind of shrink it down. But it's super cute, super simple, and I love how quickly this beanie whips up along with the texture, and it's just so much fun. So if you loved this pattern, I would love it if you would like and subscribe to the blog, or to the YouTube channel. And if you want more information, you can go ahead and check out my blog, or head over to my Etsy shop to get the full written pattern with all of the different sizes. Thank you guys so much. I can't wait to see you guys back again.